Welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast. Today, we're going to learn how to build our portfolios with mini sessions. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast, a weekly podcast for those who believe that moments matter most and that a beautiful photo is more than just a sum of its settings. A show for those who want to do more with the gear they have to take better photos today. And now, your host, Raymond Hatfield.
Oh, welcome back, all of my photo friends, to this episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast. I am Raymond Hatfield, your host, as always, and today we have quite an exciting interview with you. It is with return guest Phillip Blume. Now, if you don't know who the Blumes are, you've probably been living under a rock if you've been in the photography community for any sort of time. Phillip and Eileen Blume are like some of the most well-respected educators in the field of photography. And their story goes to show that, you can literally be, dead broke down to your last dollar and turn things around and be able to turn your photography business into, something that's easily bringing in six figures. You have a studio, and it can create the life that you want. But, it takes work, and they know exactly how to tell you how to do that. So that's what we're going to get into today. But it's not all about business. One thing that Phillip and Eileen are very well known for is talking about the power of mini sessions. And mini sessions are something that can kind of have a bad name, which I'm sure that and maybe, you'll hear in this interview. But they've been able to take them and, turn them into a cornerstone in their business. But in the beginning, they used minis to build their portfolio, right? So what better time than or what better opportunity than to get a bunch of people in front of your camera, shoot a bunch of photos, all in one day, and be able to build your portfolio. So even if you're not using mini sessions as a revenue generator, and you're just looking to shoot, either for fun or you're just getting started, this is a great way to build out your portfolio to be able to take you exactly where you want to go. So that is what we are going to be focused on here today in this interview for free listeners, right? Now, premium members each week get an extended podcast episode. They get extended interview questions from our guest. And today we're talking all about the business side of minis. So this week, premium members will learn how to build trust to grow your business, how to increase profits while also making your clients happier at the same time, and why simply sending a gallery link is killing your sales and your clients' excitement. So there's a lot to learn and understand about how to make more money with mini sessions. And trust me, Phillip and Eileen Blume are the people who you want to learn from when it comes to mini sessions. So if you want to learn the answers to those questions and answers from past guests, we're 245 episodes of the podcast in, so there's a lot of back content on, from other guests on how to build your business. So you can get access to all of that immediately when you become a premium member by heading over to beginnerphotographypodcast.com, click the premium membership button at the top of the page, and join today. There's no contracts. There's no nothing like that. It's sign up for as long as you want, and that's it. And enjoy. Take in all of these premium trainings if you want to start making money with your camera. So with that, I want to make sure that you actually stick around to the end of the interview because Phillip actually shares where you can get their ebook, Posed to Playful, absolutely free. And I'm going to share exactly where you can download that at the end of the episode. So remember to stick around for that. All right. With that, let's go ahead and get on into this interview with Phillip Blume right now. Phillip, you and your wife, Eileen, have shot weddings kind of all over the place, all over the country, over the world, different countries. You've spoke about making a living as a photographer, as an artist in some of the industry's biggest stages like WPPI, Imaging, Shutterfest. You even spoke on Creative Live and on the TEDx stage, but you started out as just a high school teacher. Is that right? It was high school? Did I get that right?
Yes, that's
High
right.
school teacher.
I was teaching 11th and 12th grade literature, so British and American lit.
That's
And
literally my nightmare. That's literally my nightmare. Not only being in that class, but having to teach that class. But getting to that point, can you kind of remind me and fill me in as far as like how you transitioned, from that and how you got started into photography to get to where you are today?
Yes, absolutely. So our whole photography journey was a surprise in a sense. I think it's that part of the story that almost anyone listening right now, we probably can relate to each other on the sense that we get into photography as a hobbyist, as a dreamer. We just enjoy it as therapeutic. It's something we enjoy personally. And then for a lot of us who are in the very early stages or have well into our businesses, somehow that became a business for us. And somehow, some of us are maybe in that honeymoon stage where we're living our dream. We're running a business that earns some money, maybe not much at the beginning, but at least we're earning money doing what we love. Or past that honeymoon phase, maybe you're starting to realize this work is overwhelming and the business is taking over. My love for photography. I'm only able to do photography 15% of the time, and the rest of our business is business. So that's kind of how Eileen and I experienced the start of our business. I was teaching high school. She was a barista at Starbucks. We were newlyweds. So it was really, it was kind of a time in our history where we were just looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. And looking back now, we realize how slim our margins were, how close to not making our bill payments each month we were, but we were living on love at that point. Had just married, and the funny thing was that we had both had an interest in photography. Eileen was that friend. She was known as that friend who's always responsible for taking the pictures at events and for the college ministry that she's part of and all these things. And I had actually studied it in school. So one of my degrees was in journalism, but the focus under that degree was photojournalism. And so I really didn't know where photography was going to take me. I was studying writing as well as the photography side. And most of my professors who I really respected said, Phillip, stay away from the photography. You're not that good at it. They're like, you're great at writing. Stick to writing. So maybe I should have taken their advice. I don't know. I'm happy where we are now, but it was certainly quite a journey to get here in terms of real struggle. And I know for a fact that, probably almost anyone tuning into this podcast right now, if they haven't gotten there yet, will experience that struggle because it's just part of life. But it was hard when we first started. Basically, a friend asked us to photograph her wedding. Well, she asked us to email her some of our portfolio, actually, just to make sure it was good enough for her to hire us on the cheap. Mm-hmm. I had photographed weddings for a couple of friends during college, really just as a wedding gift, as a favor. And so she wanted to see some of those pictures and see if she could hire us for maybe $1,500 to shoot her wedding. And we thought, I imagine that. Like, imagine if someone would pay us $1,500. That'd just be like newlywed, extra spending money for whatever fun we're gonna have.
No more ramen tonight. We're going to Red Lobster. Hilarious. So go on. So once we, you sent over this portfolio, what'd she say?
Well, she hired us. We shot that wedding. We probably spent more in resources and time to make it happen than what we got paid. But nonetheless, it was a great experience. Oftentimes it's worth starting out that way. Maybe even shooting for nothing, because the experience we gained was really important. But she hired us. That was the first wedding that Eileen and I photographed together. The funny thing is, Eileen, and I hope everyone, if they're thinking about using their photography for a business, kind of realizes that you need different personality types to make a business work. If it's not a husband and wife duo, you have to find a partner or hire someone who can do certain things that you're not great at. So for me, I love the human interaction. I can really, I think I can sell people on confidence that we're going to give you a great experience, and they know I'll come through for them on that experience. Eileen is the detail-oriented person. And so she's also just a perfectionist. So when I asked her to email those pictures to our friend as a portfolio to view, she instead hacked together a little website And now this is back in what, 2007, 2008.
Not easy to do.
So yeah, it's not just like click and drag software that's available. So she's pretty brilliant. She trained herself real quick and she made a simple online portfolio. And that basically, I think the timing was good because not a lot of people were just in the yellow pages still. They weren't figuring out the website thing. So we started getting so many inquiries that we very quickly went full time, which sounds exciting. It sounds like the dream. Like, oh, how lucky you struck gold at the right time in the dawn of the internet age. But in reality, it was almost our undoing. It was almost our destruction. The fact that we became so busy and we felt confident to leave our full-time jobs and jump full-time into photography right away. We had too much work. But it was financially very, very disastrous at first, for sure.
Just because you were charging lower than what you needed to survive?
Absolutely. Right. So, I mean, to us, the pinnacle of successful photography and kind of winning accolades and the esteem of your peers and everything, all that sort of came together in wedding photography, which happened to be, who our first client was, a wedding photography lead. So we're like, we have this one wedding, plus the couple that I shot during college. We already have this working portfolio. And these people in the photography world who we really admire and just look up to, they're wedding photographers and they're doing awesome, just killing it. And maybe we'll be rich and famous like them one day. They're so cool. They were rock stars in our eyes. And so we didn't think the second thing about doing the math or looking at kind of a business plan. To us, the numbers just sounded bigger than anything we had ever earned before. And we had no experience to tell us how much was going to be asked of us, how much we had to invest in terms of time and money to keep a business going. And so by the time we had already booked up all these weddings on the cheap, it was very easy to book the weddings at the low cost that we were offering. And yeah, we were newlyweds. We spent every waking moment together because we're working together. But our relationship just completely, it kind of ended in a way. Like we were on separate computer monitors, staring into those monitors hour after hour into the night, trying to keep up on edits, falling behind, stressed out, no time to build our relationships, our friendships, our time with our family, all of that just dissolved. Because if anyone ever called and said, you want to get together, there was no time for that anymore. So pretty soon, friends just stopped calling because they knew the answer would always be no. So it was a really low point in our life. But also once we realized we couldn't afford, our bank was all of a sudden getting lower and lower instead of higher. And we couldn't afford our mortgage in the coming months. We couldn't afford trash pickup. We would literally collect our trash out in our carport throughout the week and then throw it into the back of our Jetta and drive it to the dump on my way into town once a week, and our car just smelled like garbage.
Wow.
We kind of were like, what else? How much lower can we sink when our life smells like garbage?
Our life smells like garbage. So what was it that turned it around for you?
It was kind of a come to Jesus moment where we realized we're at the end of our rope financially. We finally reached a kind of a hit rock bottom in the sense of everything I described. Our relationship just wasn't growing. But really also just tragedy kind of struck home for us as a newlywed couple when we were expecting to grow our family. And those plans just didn't come to fruition the way we hoped. And so we're kind of at a place where we loved photography. There was a time when we loved photography, and it seems to us like it wasn't that long ago. We were like a year and a half into our business, maybe 2 years. And we're looking back and thinking, man, photography seemed really fun a couple years ago. At this point, we just don't care if this fails. If it fails, I'll go back to teaching high school. You can go back to, mixing drinks at Starbucks. Those aren't, maybe it's not called mixing drinks. That's a different kind of bartending. But
I get it,
making specialty. She probably mixed a little in on those bad days at work just to feel better. But we just knew we have one last shot at this. And so what we decided was we're going to stop trying to be artists. We had for 2 years tried to be artists and be creative with our business, run everything. We made it up as we went along. And this is the nutty thing. So this will shock everyone and they'll see just how stupid I am. Raymond, I may have mentioned this to you before, but Eileen has a business degree. Eileen went to school and studied business. She kind of created her own major, which was graphic design plus business. But just as young, dewy-eyed kids, we just thought that we could reinvent the wheel. And so we decided, okay, stop for a second. We're not going to try anything new. We're going to go back onto the tried and true, boring, academic, financial principles of running a business, the marketing psychology. And even though we knew that thing in a textbook sense, because she learned it through textbooks, it was still a whole nother level of learning once you start putting it into practice. So it was still a little bit scary. But we decided we're just going to trust the process, what experts and successful people have been teaching for hundreds of years, and see if it works in this modern era. When we thought that internet and social media was all we needed. As it turns out, those old moldy business practices that Eileen learned at business school are based in human nature. And so they never get old and they work really well. And we applied them. We couldn't apply them to our wedding photography because we were booked out, a year and a half. Our calendar was full of low paying weddings. Mm-hmm. We had no money today. And so there's no way we were going to be able to start testing it and see if this business process worked. We weren't going to survive that long. And so this was the nutty thing we did was we decided to take the worst genre in the photography world, which is mini sessions. Mini sessions have ruined many a photography business because of the traditional model that everyone uses. It is a kind of a low ball, bare bones experience, as little service as possible and just as little cost as possible. And hopefully we can just, it's kind of like, what is that website, Raymond, where you kind of try to get the best deals, groups come together and...
Oh, is it Groupon? Is that it?
Groupon, yeah. Okay. So a mini session strategy generally is like your own personal Groupon. You're just trying to get a bunch of people to take part in it so you can make a few bucks. And it will just about kill you. Mm-hmm. The amount of, you don't realize how much effort it takes to serve that many clients if you're just doing it willy-nilly. So many demands, so many questions, so many needs that every client has. You don't make it easier on yourself by charging less. You just grow your business, and it's exactly a replica of what we did wrong with weddings.
Right.
So we thought, so we're going to do something very different. And the spoiler here is we applied crazy solid business principles to try to fix the mini session system, and it freaking worked. Like it worked. That was our test case. We had a weekend of mini sessions that we planned, and we're just going to try to apply everything we possibly know about business as an experiment, see what happens. And we made $8,000 that first weekend that we experimented with this mini sessions plan. Wow. And it wasn't because we had 8,000 clients who, each paid $1. We had just a very small number of clients. We had energy left over, so even after the mini sessions event was over. But what we had was a business structure that gave people a great experience, attracted the right clients, and really communicated to them the value of print. And we had these huge print orders was the result. And so that's why that number was so high. And that changed our lives because although we continued to do weddings, we applied what we learned to our weddings and quickly changed to be like a 10,000 more luxury wedding photography studio. Mm-hmm. And that was great because we could just shoot a few weddings that we really wanted to each year. But mini sessions, we actually decided we love, especially as our family did begin to grow finally. We did have our first child and our second and adopted our third. We wanted, just as our business evolved, we wanted to not have to travel the world every weekend, as fun as that had been, and just shoot in our backyard and be able to make like a luxury wedding photographer's income by serving people who lived around us and be home with our kids. So it was like a miracle for us. It was an answer to prayer.
That's so great to hear because I think, a lot of people especially new photographers, they probably get into mini sessions for like one of two reasons. One, to just drum up quick business because it's a low price offering. You feel like you're going to bring in a bunch of people. And then two, it seems like in theory it should be less work. It's not a wedding. It's a short amount of, a time. You don't have to deliver that much. Like, this all sounds wonderful. But as you said, I mean, I've, you know, uh, personally spoke with other photographers who have said, this is so much harder than I expected, or we didn't get people to sign up and we had to make other things work, or it just, kind of became a bust. So I love to hear that, obviously you had massive success with mini sessions. And I'm excited to talk about the business aspect of the mini sessions here shortly. But I want to talk about kind of the other aspects first for maybe those who are just getting started in photography, who are looking to build their portfolio. As you said in the beginning, you needed that portfolio to send to that potential client to get that first wedding that you had.
Yes.
And if you didn't have that portfolio, you might not have booked it. You might not be here today. So having a portfolio is something that is important to do. So
Right.
let's talk about using minis as a way to build your portfolio. Is that even reasonable to think of for somebody who's new to photography?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the wonderful thing about minis is minis are wonderful things. They, as Tigger would say, right? They, you can tell I'm a dad first and a photographer second. Really, mini sessions do sort of within their molecular makeup have some really serious advantages, which is why it's so nice when you apply the right business structure to them. But just in and of itself, and I'll sort of give a definition of what for Eileen and me, what is a mini session, because there is so much value in that. And simply put, a mini session is, one of the main elements is just that it's short on time, right? So our mini sessions run 20 minutes. That's the way our mini sessions are advertised. And of course, we have the freedom to over deliver. Over delivery is such an important part of running an experiential business, that people feel like you have over delivered. Expectations, what leads to frustration in any human being. So frustration is caused by unmet expectations. And the last thing you want is customers who feel frustrated, who feel a lack of trust in you as a company. You have to be professional. So the easiest way to present yourself that way is to always surpass expectations. And if you start by under promising, our mini sessions are 20 minutes, and then it becomes very easy to over deliver. And so a lot of us, and I've seen this over and over again, even among educators, since we've been teaching for almost a decade now, and heard so many people speak in relation to different genres. I remember sitting in a classroom with a really amazing photographer whose work I love, but he talked about how he did engagement sessions. And there's nothing, no shame, nothing wrong for him doing it this way. He was a single guy at the time. He could do whatever he wanted. He traveled the world doing engagement sessions, destination ones. And he would spend all day long with his couples. Like, they would meet him early in the morning. They get some sunrise pictures. They would eat all the meals together throughout the day.
Wow.
Eileen and I tried that sort of thing with our couples early on, before we had kids. And it's just like, yeah, it's cool, but really, you can build good relationships with your couples without requiring them to spend the entire day with you. And you have no time in your life for your own family or friends if you're doing that with your clients. Go ahead and say goodbye to your real friends and replace them with your paying friends, right? Mm-hmm. And that just, a lot of us think, well, that's what the customer demands. They want more time. And what we forget is that by and large, almost across the board, customers of our businesses, that's an expense for them. That's not added value. If you ask them to give you that much time, they don't have that much time. You're asking them to pay to be part of this experience, in a sense.
Yeah.
So 20 minutes is just wonderful for you can use it as a marketing tool to actually attract engaged couples who they don't have to have a lot of trust in you to give you 20 minutes and let you introduce them to your wedding work by having a first experience with you. it's an easy way to, if you want to shoot seniors, like what better way to create not just a senior ambassador program that has 3 or 4 ambassadors who you hope will tell their friends about you, but you actually increase your chances as you multiply your ambassadors. Well, you can create a ton of ambassadors with mini sessions because you can do them in just 20 minutes. It takes it 20 minutes to create an ambassador with a whole portfolio to show, and you can do them back to back throughout a day. Imagine like mini sessions for families, how valuable that is to the family, because for kids, that's all the attention span they have. And we've actually done research on this, which is really interesting. And to see that one of the number one reasons that families choose or resist booking professional photography is the parents' fear of being embarrassed by their own children. So people think that families just book a photographer because they want amazing work and they love their photography. Really, the reason that a parent will book a photographer is that they know that the experience is not going to embarrass them, in front of a professional photographer. So there's so many things, and it's not just kids, by the way. I think you know this, Raymond. Dads and grumpy grooms can be the worst when it comes to attention span.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like get them at that high. It's amazing how much you can create in 20 minutes when you have a set purpose and you're not just trying to create who knows what. You have a very set purpose, what you're wanting to get in that portfolio during that time. And everyone leaves with a taste in their mouth that's good. Mm-hmm. They leave on a high, and emotionally, that experience in your brain really helps create connection between you and the professional, the business you just worked with, as opposed to walking away exhausted and hating the experience and never wanting to return to that again.
Of course. So we got the fact that it's a short amount of time is really a benefit, not only for you because you can do more sessions, but also for the client because they know that they're going to be in and out. They're not going to be exhausted in front of the camera. They're not going to get worn out. But then also, because we can schedule them back to back, now we have the flexibility to be able to get more photos, right, for our own portfolio. And you mentioned there, kind of being strategic about getting the photos that you need, right? Get in there, get the photos that you need, and then that's it, right? So exactly. How do we know what are those photos that we need if we're just starting off? I mean, I don't know. I want people happy, right? Like, is that all that we need in a portfolio? Just smiles? Is that it?
Do you know, well, not all you need, but that actually is just a natural side effect of, because if they are happy, you see that energy. And maybe even if you as an outside third party don't necessarily see it, I can tell you your clients know what is their authentic smile and what is their own faked smile. Mm-hmm. And so if they really are genuinely having a ball and just high energy, that does actually improve the pictures, especially for the client, who's, in my opinion, that's who matters the most, right? Who are we trying to impress? But yes, to kind of follow up on that and go into this other direction that I think is really important. You do want to have a clear vision of what you're creating. And a lot of us starting out in photography, portrait photography in particular, we're just so concerned about, like, how do we keep the portrait subject engaged? How do we make it look like we know what the heck we're doing?
Yeah, that's a big thing.
And a lot of us, we're asking our subjects, like, oh, I don't know, what do you want to do? Oh, I don't know, what do you want to do? And it's kind of like those 3 vultures at the end of the Jungle Book, right? Oh, I don't know, don't start that again. Your clients don't want you to ask them. They want you to be the photographer. They want you to be the expert and lead them. They have no idea what they want to do in terms of posing, locations. So for Eileen and me, mini sessions is what really trained us in that skill. Even if we're shooting a wedding, we always try to schedule an hour with the couple for their creative couples portraits. And in a wedding day, that almost never really happens. We always almost, because we tried to schedule an hour, we usually end up with about 20 minutes. And now we have so much confidence because we're like, we can create a huge body of work in 20 minutes because we've been trained in mini sessions. This is what we do. And so just very practically, part of that is knowing what your shot types are going to be, not necessarily a specific shot list, but know hey, listen, for every location I choose, I'm not just going to keep shooting like, oh, this looks good. I don't want to waste this. So I'm just going to keep clicking. How many of us have sort of like, oh, we finally got a picture that works. And I just keep telling this portrait, oh yeah, hold that. And I might go for 5 minutes just shooting that same picture over and over again.
Yes.
Because I don't want to ruin it. Yeah, we all raise our hands at this moment, right? And then we get into the editing later in Lightroom, and we're like, okay, I just spent 45 minutes looking for the very best, most perfect version of one single picture because I have 200 of the same picture. So we have to, minis help train ourselves out of that beginner's rut in that way. We know that if we have 20 minutes, we pick a location and we're going to focus on going tight, medium, wide. Instead of just getting one view of that location, we're gonna maximize the value of that space. So often you get really good lighting on your client and you love what you're looking at. Get that wide shot. That's where a lot of us as beginners start out, is we're comfortable standing far away from the client.
Yes.
So they don't hear us breathing heavily with our nerves. And so we're going to stay at a distance, and the scenery is beautiful. It's easier to shoot a landscape sometimes than it is to go in there and give direction. So we start wide. Well, knock that out. And then, as Eileen would always tell me at the beginning when I would get stuck in that place, she'd say like, Phillip, move on. It was good to have her at my side, like in my ear. Mm-hmm. Even though I was leading the shoot most of the time, she was in my ear as my little Jiminy Cricket, like telling me what I need to do. So I would get in there medium and create those those crops that are almost more like a headshot, getting those 2/3 shots and being forced to give some direction and tell people to change it up. Like, oh, if it's a couple, that's so great. Just, you can lean back into him. He'll be behind you and kind of hold you in a snuggle. But now I've got enough of that. So now I'm close up medium. Let's actually have you guys turn into one another and just nuzzle noses a little bit, Now make sure you don't show me the back of your head. Keep your noses turned out toward me. And it gives us, this idea that we've got to keep moving and get variety. Forces us to put ourselves in an uncomfortable situation and practice those posing guides. And then to get in there, and then you don't change anything. Make the most of this location and the great lighting that you already found, but still getting fresh images by going in there and getting just those really tight close-ups, hey, let's have you guys kiss, but no puckering. It's not actually a real kiss. This is a Hollywood cinema kiss. So I just want you to breathe through your lips, just allow your mouth to stay open, and just don't quite let your mouths touch. Those are the best kissing images. There's no actual kiss. It's just the moment before. It's that tension. It's the feeling, right? Because that's what images really express, is feeling. So you learn these things by creating variety in a short amount of time and learning how to maximize the setting. So during a mini session, we might use 3 backgrounds, right? But the photography is no longer about the backgrounds like it used to be for me when I shot a full-length session. Hunting around, traveling in a car from this location to that location. And I use that as a crutch. Like, we want to shoot amazing backgrounds.
Yes.
No, this mini sessions forces you to make the portraits about the people and use some of those tools to nonetheless create an amazing amount of variety. And the last thing I would say there is, it's not just about posing. When you have 20 minutes and you really want it to be about a high energy experience, our favorite thing is to lead people through scenarios rather than a specific pose. So, imagine that, you kids are, this is like on a family shoot, for instance, imagine you kids are lost in the woods and walk around that bush right there, and then whisper to mom and dad, when I count to 3, y'all come out like goblins in the woods to pick up your kids and grab them and tickle them. And then I'll actually just guide the kids through this imaginary world, because their imaginations are already so strong and they're so ready to just laugh and giggle and create all kinds of natural expression. So I'm getting these great pictures of these kids who are wide-eyed and they're imagining they're walking through this wood, lost in the woods. And it's like, I don't have to tell them, hold your face in a serious way. Instead, I tell them to just feel an emotion, and they create that. And then I can say, now the goblins are going to get you. And mom and dad run out and tickle them. And they're, of course, not really scared. It's mom, dad. So they're laughing and just this natural expression. So much variety and expression is possible as well.
First of all, I love how many Disney references we've now made so far today.
Already.
I think this is number 3 or number 4, so this is great. But I
We've
think
been living on Disney Plus lately.
haven't we all? I think now is the perfect time to kind of talk about the posing aspect, because with minis, we really have such a limited amount of time. And if we want to make sure that we get the photos that we need for our portfolio, it sounds to me there that like you're doing a mixture of, I don't want to say hyperposed, but like very intentional direction versus more, just giving kids a game to play to be able to interact and capture those kind of natural, candid moments. Does that sound about right? And if so, kind of what's the balance? Is it 50-50 there, or is it split a different way?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is something that we have a ball teaching when we do our actual mini sessions classes with students, whether it's in workshops or more recently online. We don't always get enough time to talk about this because it's best learned, in a video or in person and practicing.
Yes.
But here's some ideas that you can really just practice and put into use. If there's one thing I'm willing to acknowledge I have a special skill at, it is child whispering. So I'll just give myself a little pat on the back for that. That is my one talent. It's beyond photography. So it really is important and we won't talk just about families here. We can extend this out to your seniors, to couples, and all these different types of sessions. But it really is great to sort of picture a child in this position initially. When you're guiding children, the number one thing to remember in child psychology is that, especially at certain ages where they can actually walk and understand you anyway, they are testing limits of their autonomy. They're starting to realize, just in brain development for the first time, that they have a certain amount of that they can impose their will. That's why we know about the terrible twos, and that kind of goes on for a few years.
I'm going on terrible 5s now. Like this is
right.
We're still going. Yeah.
So what you as a photographer, as the guide in this experience want to be is not an authority figure, because even if they like you, even if they're just kids, they're naturally going to want to oppose the authority figure. So I want to put myself in the position of a peer to some degree. Now, I'm not going to act like a baby and let them run all over me. I'm just going to trick them. So I'm just going to deceive the children. So what I want to do is, when the family arrives, the first thing is I don't go up and greet the parents right away and, oh, hey, it's great to meet you, John and Linda. Thanks for booking our session, with the Blooms. And are these your kids? Tell me their names. Like, no, I'm not. That immediately communicates to the kids what they're thinking is, okay, here's my mom and dad's peer. Here's an authority. Okay, time to see what we've got to oppose mom and dad's and photographers' instructions. Instead, I ignore mom and dad. I immediately run up and I've got the kids' names written down. It's let's say it's who are the kids on Mary Poppins?
Oh, geez.
Jane and Michael. Let's continue with the Disney theme.
Let's go.
So we've got Jane and Michael. Oh my gosh, Jane, Michael, I'm so excited to see you. I've been waiting for you to come. I keep hearing how cool you are. Your mom and dad tell me how awesome you guys are. Can we? I've got some really cool games and adventures planned. You wanna sort of go on an adventure? And I'm down on one knee. I'm on their level. I'm reaching to shake their hands. And so we're the peer. And the second thing I do is literally ask mom and dad to step back. Like, you're not important here, mom and dad. I'll tell mom and dad, I have to tell Jane and Michael a secret, but you cannot hear this. So cover your ears. And this might seem sketchy to some mom and dads, right? But I've actually emailed the family, after they book, they receive a few nurturing emails to let them know what this experience is going to be like. And they completely expect this. So mom and dad, step back, cover your ears. Kids, hey, listen. Don't let your mom and dad know. They think this is just a plain old boring photo shoot and we're just going to say cheese and have to hold still. But actually, we're going to surprise your mom and dad and make them laugh like crazy. Can you help me? Will y'all help me with that? And I'm just so, my enthusiasm will easily go over to them. I don't have to tell them specifically what we're going to do, because what we're going to do is actually not that big of a deal.
Right.
It's something that a lot of you out there who are photographers already may do, but I'm building it up. So it's all in building the anticipations, just like a good screenplay, right? And so, oh yeah, they're ready. And I say, okay, look, all you have to know is when I count 1, 2, 3, then listen, because I'll tell you what to do, and it's going to be crazy. And I'll just do simple things. From that point on, I'll say, oh, come on, mom and dad, we're just going to take some boring old pictures. Don't worry. I was just telling them they have to be good and they're going to get disciplined if they're naughty. That's what I was telling them. And the kids are just giggling to themselves. Then I'll put the family in I'll start out with that perfect location, that perfect pose that I want for above the family's mantelpiece. Like this portrait is going to be so formal and the kids are going to be so well behaved, and I can get them to behave because now that I set them in this location, I say, now you stand here. I stand back with my camera and I literally say out loud, like, oh, these kids would never do anything wrong. They would never surprise you. They're just such little angels. And I'll just keep saying stuff like that for, 1 or 2 minutes while I keep getting tons of perfect pictures, and they act like little angels. Like we always hope that our children in portraits would act, because they're just sitting there. They can't wait for what's going to happen. So they're happy to be still, and it's like waiting to jump out and surprise someone. So that's how I do that over and over and over again. Every time we switch location, I set up the perfect picture. I say, they're just so good and well behaved. Nothing crazy is about to happen. I'll get all the good pictures I want. And then I'll say, 1, 2, 3, attack mom and dad, tickle, run away so your mom and dad don't catch you. I might want a picture of them running toward me and mom and dad kind of chasing them. I can always, as we call it in our posing theory, we call it balloon posing, because at the end of this sequence of posing, you always want to pop the pose. You inflate their egos, you create this perfect pose, and then you just pop it with wild, candid pictures. And inevitably, so if you're thinking about variety, that's the variety style. If you're thinking about business, I can tell you from, going on 14 years of experience, it's those candid pictures that are imperfect, that will never win a print award, that sell the best, that mean the most to the subjects who you're photographing as well.
So, thank you so much for sharing that. That is a very practical way that listeners can not only use on their own kids, perhaps, but obviously get better reactions out of the kids or, other subjects that they're photographing. But I want to talk about now, let's go ahead and transfer into that kind of business side of things, because as we talked about earlier, it's very easy for people to get burnt out during mini sessions, not only because they find out that it is a lot of work, but after all is said and done, it does seem like a very small amount of money. And I think the real big question here for a lot of people, once they realize, oh, this is a lot of work, is aren't minis essentially cannibalizing our own traditional sessions that we sell every day?
You are listening to the free version of the Beginner Photography Podcast, where each week you learn how world-class photographers see and capture the world around them. If you want to hear the extended interview with their best business tips to learn how to make money with your camera, then become a premium member today by heading over to beginnerphotographypodcast.com and click the premium membership button to join now.
I've never heard it kind of explained that way, because when you lay it out like that, it seems easy. And I think our human nature is just, we go out and we shoot, and it's fun and it's fantastic, and then we're scared to put that art out in front of them and see that reaction just in case it's bad. So instead, we just send them a link, right? Here you go, enjoy. And then we hope that that's the end of the day. But the way that you described it there makes me feel like, what? Why would I ever do that? It almost seems insane to think of that and not add some sort of personal touch. And obviously the way that you broke it down there makes it easy, makes it not super scary, if we're only just spending a few minutes and then handing over essentially the tools to let them do the rest, and to see that sales still continue to climb is great. So again, thank you so much for sharing that aspect.
Absolutely.
That was awesome. Yeah. So let's talk about now the challenging aspects of minis, right? On top of time, shortened amount of time, on top of, having all these photos that we need to edit and whatnot. Like, what is it about minis that, causes so much overwhelm for new photographers and can be so stressful there in the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, it is the kind of thing where you're all these new clients who you potentially brought in, have every one of them has a unique personality. And so if you don't have a system in place at first, you're going to get, let's say this is the first time you've tried this, and somehow, if you're doing the minis the old traditional way, and you're just basically undervaluing and underpricing. And so you get a lot of clients, and you're kind of booked up, and you didn't have FAQs kind of already in place on your website. You didn't have any automated emails set up to kind of walk them through and prepare them and remind them for their session. Then what you're going to have is a certain just math. It just works out this way. This is the way the universe revolves, right? Just mathematics says that some of your clients are going to forget about their sessions. You're going to have people no shows. You're going to have people who don't complete that online invoice, and you're spending 10 minutes and then 10 minutes again because you didn't get a reply to that one, trying to remind people about things. You're going to have someone email to ask you about wardrobe, and you're going to spend all this time writing an email to explain that to them and answering their specific questions. And then another person's going to write and ask the same thing, and you have to kind of customize or try to use part of what you wrote and write them. So you're doing all of these things in overlapping measure. And really, instead of maximizing your time, you're really multiplying the time that you spend and put in. You could literally, if you added up the hours, find that you are making pennies per hour for all the time you put in, mainly in communication, right? But when you have you have templates, you have a calendar of when this email goes out to everyone preemptively at this point in the process before people tend to ask, and you have all of those years of kind of experience of saying, this is the way that the system is run. Well, now you have a system, kind of like a fast food restaurant has a chain of command, or Henry Ford invented the entire concept of it's not coming to me, not the chain of work, but
like the processes.
Yeah. Kind of like I Love Lucy, trying to put the candies down eating the candies as she puts them down the conveyor belt. But you have that whole process that, as some of my favorite mentors say, is trust the process. Trust the process, because we're all the time, this is the human nature on our side as business owners. We're all the time making decisions and responding to people with a lot of fear and lack of confidence in ourselves. And so we just kind of respond emotionally, and we choose to do something or not to do something, not to try it because it might fail out of fear and concern. But if we trust the process, then we can take every question that comes to us, and instead of looking at a question that someone sends our way, like, why are your prices so high? Mm-hmm. I didn't expect an 8x10 to cost that much. Why do you charge that? And instead of becoming defensive and thinking that every question is a criticism, we realize that questions aren't criticisms. Questions are simply a request for more information. And if we already have that information ready to go, and hopefully we send it ahead of time, then that's called nurturing. You nurture a client, and most people are content as soon as you explain something to them, and with that attitude of helpfulness rather than of defense.
Of course. And then once again, builds more trust if you can answer that question before they
all goes back to that. Yes.
I love it. Phillip, I know that we have such a limited amount of time here on a podcast, and many of us as photographers are very visual learners. So can you share with us maybe where we can learn more about you and even potentially this mini session model that you've built?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, we have been working when we can't be with people in person at workshops. touring, which is what we love. We just love being around people. We've at least learned how to do this really well virtually. So we've created a kind of a handbook, a really great downloadable guide to mini sessions to get everyone started. There's so much to learn, but this is a really great foundation that you can just simply download. And the link, what I'll do, Raymond, is if you're able to add it into the show, I don't have it in front of me, but I'll give you that link. You can share it and maybe mention it here in the audio. And they can just go there, download that ebook and get started. Find out about if we are, God willing, in the future in their area to do actual workshops, or if they're able to join us for an online workshop, actually showing behind the scenes of all this, then we'd love to do that. Hopefully that ebook helps a lot. I think that I always love talking with you, Raymond, because you're a listener and you always have such a great grasp of the conversation at hand. It's always so much fun. So I think we covered a lot of ground today. I appreciate you so much, and appreciate everybody who just took the time to listen. I hope you got something valuable.
Man, I truly love their story, from literally going to, not even being able to pay for garbage pickup service, to, now being where they're at today, where they're shooting weddings, all over the world, all over the country, and they're making a good living from their photography, and traveling the country. Well, maybe not right now traveling the country, but, traveling the country and educating other photographers on how they can do the same. It's truly amazing to see this happen. And what was so cool is to hear that, like, pretty much all of that came from mini sessions for them, and building out a simple way for them to build their business that's going to be repeatable and going to be able to bring in the income that they need to support themselves and their family. And not only that, but like give back and serve their community as well. So I always love listening to their stories and speaking with Phillip. So Phillip, if you're listening right now, man, thank you so much for everything. Now, for the rest of you listeners, as I said in the interview, and as Phillip said, he's going to give me a link to so that you can download their ebook, Posed to Playful, absolutely free. So I got the link right here, which if you're driving, don't worry, I'm going to put the link in the show notes. But if you're like at a computer patiently waiting for this, you can download your copy of their free ebook, Posed to Playful, at bit.ly. So that's bit.ly/Max Minis. One word, Max, MAXMINIS. bit.ly/Max Minis. So when you sign up and you grab that free ebook, Posed to Playful, which, by the way, I have, and it's truly a fantastic resource, you're also going to be getting information about an upcoming webinar that I will be hosting with the Blooms on more of the business side that maybe we didn't get into today, or didn't have time to really get in depth about today. All about, maximizing mini sessions. Now, I mean, they've built this course over the past few years. They have the experience, and they have had thousands of other photographers go through this course and totally changed their business from, like, where do I start, to, here's this business in a box, essentially. Put all these things into practice and start making an income from their photography. So they have a webinar all about it that I'm going to be hosting with them. So when you sign up for that Posed to Playful ebook, you're going to be getting information about that as well. So highly recommend that you go ahead and do that. That webinar that we're going to be hosting is going to be on April 15th. So that is if you're listening today when it comes out, in just over a week. And again, I'm going to be there. It's a good time. I've done this with them before. And all the comments are always, so appreciative of how much they actually share and how value driven it is. Like, you're not going to walk away from this thinking, oh, that was a waste of time. Like, you're going to walk away with tools that you can put into your business right away and start generating an income from mini sessions. So again, if you want information on the webinar, or if you just want the ebook, head over to bit.ly. So that's bit.ly/Max Minis, MAXMINIS. And one last time, the link will be in the show notes if you're driving or you're at the gym, or, whatever it is right now, for you to click on and download there. So that is it for this week. Until next week, I want you to, keep shooting. I want you to stay safe. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. If you enjoy the show, consider leaving a review in iTunes. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.